All right, everyone. I have one of our fan favorites back today, Natalie. You all love her. She's the mama bear of small business. And Natalie, I just am so excited for your second book to come out. I still distinctly remember your first book coming out because there's this really funny picture of me where I went camping with I'll have to send it to you. It's actually hilarious. And I totally forgot about this picture until recently when I was on my bachelorette trip and my best friend Claire, she created this really funny game. It's kind of like Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples, but it's What Do You Meme, if you've heard of it before. You know
Yes,
that
yes.
game? Okay, so
Uh-huh.
it was, I can't remember what the caption was, but basically, like she had my sisters and my other best friend, Dossie, and my mom send in really embarrassing photos of me. And then they would put up like a prompt and, they would all just like put like the worst pictures. But there's this really funny one that I, again, forgot about until I saw it then. It's me in this, what I call my blanket coat. So it's like, it's an actual like a North Face coat, but it looks like it just a big blanket. And then I kid you not, I have like a headlamp on, like it's strapped to my forehead with like a huge
No.
beam
No.
coming out of my forehead. And it's just me in this little chair reading Built to Belong with this huge headlamp and in this like
Stop.
pitch dark. And it is so funny. Like I have to send you the photo. If you're watching this
Well,
on
hold up. Yeah, are you gutsy enough? Are you gutsy enough to post the photo? Like, can we link that up in some show notes action here?
Yes, I will. I will. You know what? This is gonna be a YouTube bonus. So if you are
Love,
listening to this right
love.
now, go to YouTube. We'll insert a photo right here because it's freaking hilarious. Anyways, I digress. So all this to say, I'm very excited to welcome your second book into the world, Gutsy. And just for fun today, I know you've been doing this series asking people, what Gutsy means to them, all of these things. I wanted to put you in the hot seat. So we're going to do like a rapid fire lightning round and discover all of Natalie's gutsiest things. Are you
Oh
ready for
God,
this, friend?
this is gonna be spicy. Yes,
To be real
yes.
spicy.
Oh gosh.
Okay, we're diving in. Here we go. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
The most gutsy thing I've ever said is,
Oh, um, Oh God. Okay. Okay. This is really bad. The most gutsy thing I've ever said is telling a friend that they need to like break up with someone. Like really, like he's got to go. Okay. Like he's got to go. And I remember I was so nervous because again, this is a dear friend of mine, but I basically convinced her to break up with her boyfriend of like 5 years.
wow. Okay, first, I gotta say, I'm actually really impressed
That's
that
pretty gutsy.
it is gutsy, A, to say that to someone you love, not knowing what their reaction could be. But
Yeah.
B, I'm truly impressed that your friend, your friend listened to you, only for the fact that you know how, like, when your friends ask you for relationship advice, it's kind of like this just behavior that you give your advice and inevitably they're like, "Yeah, yeah, that's good advice," but they don't apply it
Don't
until they come
listen.
yeah, until they come to their own realization about it, and you kind of just have to be this patient, like, "Yeah, you'll find your way in your own due time," but the fact that she listened, like, wow, that's
Yeah, but hey, listen, and we talk about this in the book. I talk about the fact that we don't often navigate the world looking for the truth. We navigate the world looking for validation that what we already suspect to be true is in fact true. And so when she asked me about him, when she's like, "Okay, what do you really think?"
yeah,
There was a moment where I realized like she needs me to tell her the actual truth here because there's a part of her that also acknowledges it and
mm,
maybe is clinging to that comfort zone and isn't ready to leap into being single again and
yeah,
taking, kind of that risk of taking the future that other people or you thought you would have and just throwing it out the window to pursue what's really right for you. And so I suspected that she really wanted me to tell her the truth, which is no, he's not good for you. This is toxic. Like it's time. It's
right.
time and it's going to be okay. Actually, it's going to be better than okay. And so, yeah, I'm grateful. I mean, again, like now we're in a whole different season of life and she's with somebody new and they're super happy. But yeah, I'm going to be like that really. When you said it, I got really uncomfortable and I remembered that moment because I was like, don't say it. Don't say it. Just smile. Nod. No, Nat, you got to be gutsy. You love your friend enough to tell her the truth. And the truth
Yeah.
is, this relationship is no longer serving her. It is time.
Go you for being a true friend. All right, that one was about someone else, but
Okay.
this one's gonna have to be about you. The most
Oh,
gutsy
God.
first move I've ever made is And this doesn't have to be a first move like, oh, I asked out someone, like first move in anything that you were just so scared to do.
So I will say I was the one to officially make the first move on my husband. Like I asked him out, although or introduced myself and all that, but he would say, no, I'm not telling the truth, but I am. I really am the first one. He likes to think it was him. It wasn't, but that's not the answer I'll give. The gustiest first move I ever made was chasing down Gary Vaynerchuk in San Francisco, California, because I was desperate to have him speak at an online event with me. And I literally chased him down. There may
So
be
you were sprinting down the streets
yeah,
of San Francisco.
like there may be a restraining order against me at this point after that. But yeah, so a little bit of backstory on this fun one. Basically, we were hosting an online summit. We were raising money for charity, and I really wanted to have him come on and speak. But getting through to somebody like Gary Vee is nearly impossible unless you know someone who knows someone. Well, guess what? I didn't know someone who knows someone. I knew no one. So we essentially had our eyes out for any opportunity to convince him to do it. And my husband, being the sleuth that he is at the time, was following Gary Vee on Snapchat and saw Gary post a snap of him with someone from his team at a coffee shop in San Francisco. And I kid you not, my husband triangulated this coffee shop and found his location based on other people sharing about seeing Gary on like Twitter and other places, and identified the exact Pete's Coffee in SF. To which he called me and my friend Martha, who is now the CEO of Flowdesk. Her and I, we were both working at Honeybook at the time together on the same team. And we were like, all right, we're dropping everything. And so we just ran. We couldn't even get an Uber in time. We sprinted out of breath, huffing and puffing to try to get to this coffee shop before Gary left. And I think I scared the living daylights out of him. But the good news is we did get there in time. I got to meet Gary. He's wonderful. He put up with my wildness and said yes to speak at the summit. And he said yes. So that's pretty gutsy.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm like literally envisioning this in my head. And I actually could see myself doing something similar. I haven't, but I could see it. And so I have to applaud you for truly like, carpe diem. You did not just seize it. You seized the moment and you were like, the universe has put us in the same place at the same, well, relatively close, same place at the same time. And you just went for it. And I think there's something to be said about recognizing an opportunity when you see it and realizing that the regret of living with having not, shown up in that way is far greater than any embarrassment or potential first judgment from an unknown person may have on you. I have to know though, I feel like our listeners would be disappointed if I didn't ask, how exactly how did you phrase that invitation in such a way that he cared to even consider it?
Yeah. So let me put it this way. It was not well crafted. From the 45 seconds of notice I had on the call with my husband to like the 4 minutes of sprinting, not a lot was going on in my brain other than, don't puke.
Yeah.
But I do remember saying something to the effect of, hi, Gary, you have no idea who I am. And frankly, it doesn't matter who I am. But what matters is that I lead a community at the time, I said, of over 50,000 independent business owners whose lives would be literally changed by hearing from you. We're hosting an online event. It would only be 30 minutes of your time. We're not trying to make money. It's free. We're donating everything that is generated, to XYZ charity. And I just knew if I didn't shoot my shot, I'd regret it forever. And he was like, I'm in. Here's my assistant's email, blah, 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 blah. Tell him we chatted and I gave you the thumbs up. I will be there.
Wow. And he followed through on his word. That's incredible.
Oh yeah. He's one of them, the ones that does, from what I've heard. He really does. If he says he's going to do it, he does it. And I was really grateful for the opportunity. And the conversation was amazing. He really delivered so much value. And
do you still have a recording of that we could link in the show?
I do. Yeah, we still have a recording, and I think there's still behind the scenes footage on our vlog. Like
okay.
We've, I think, vlogged the actual interview, if I remember correctly. So I'll see if I can dig that up for you and share that. So you can kind of...
Oh God, is that in the book, or is that like a story from the vault, from like the archives?
No, I should have. It's an exclusive story for you. It's exclusive for you. I should have written that one in the book, but no.
Well, epilogue.
I'll have to do a Gutsy Natalie's version that'll come out in a decade.
Yeah. There we go. For reference, of course, Taylor's version
Taylor Swift
now just came out last night, so it's still fresh on our minds. Anyways, okay, I love that story. Thank you for that Cubicle to CEO exclusive. Really excited to have our listeners hear that one. All right. Third gutsy question. The most gutsy thing I've ever done at work is now I kind of feel like maybe that was potentially a contender for that, but is there anything else in the workplace that you're like, ooh, that one was real gutsy?
Yeah, and this one's going to surprise a lot of people, perhaps, because the first thing that actually came to mind was when I was a photographer, I did a lot of gutsy, we'll just say gutsy, not to be synonymous with at times illegal and or very risky things like, trespassing for the perfect sunset location. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. One time photographed a wedding and there were water snakes in the water, but I needed to get this shot. So I rolled up my pants and I waded in and photographed it anyway. In that same spot, I've been stung by jellyfish before. But again, like
Oh my
the
God.
photo is worth the gutsy move, even with the jellyfish stings and, the weird offers from groomsmen to help with the jellyfish stings, which was a whole nother story for another day. I mean, if y'all know you pee on a jellyfish sting, it doesn't hurt anymore. I don't know why. I don't know the science. Um, but just like highly inappropriate conversation that they have after, you nearly die from one tiny little jellyfish. I'm exaggerating on the size. Um, yeah, I would say truly like just I'm look, and I talk about this a little bit in the book too. I'm more of a ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of person.
Same.
So, those are examples of precisely that. Like I am a big like no one is going to give you permission to chase after your dream. And you have to go after the things that you are excited about that are going to move the needle. And as a photographer, like that really came down to just taking those risks of like, okay, I know this is a random field and I have no idea who it belongs to. And it's on the side of the road and it's definitely illegal for us to photograph there. But what do you think? And like again, like there are going to be people, by the way, that listen to that and want to come after me for doing it. But I did it. Was always very respectful of the place, or like climbing onto things to get the photo. Oh gosh, that reminds me. One time, I really wanted a higher angle, and I was at a reception, and I couldn't figure out how to get a higher angle of the dancing, and so I grabbed a chair and I stood on top of it. No problem there. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I stood on a folding chair, which, if you know anything about folding chairs, where you put the balance of the weight distribution is very critical when standing on it because it clapped like a clam on my legs, sent me tumbling into a full packed dance floor. And I mean, someone at that point thought I was trying to crowd surf. So there was like a little bit of help in like lifting me up, which was great. But would not repeat. I'll leave it there. All I will say is like, yeah, I would do just about anything for my clients. I think a lot of business owners can relate to that.
Oh, for sure. And oh my God, that's hilarious that they thought you were trying to have a crowd surf moment. I so
Yeah,
hope
I
that
was not.
the videographer there, if there was one, captured that epic moment. Have you
Oh,
ever seen those videos that are like people who turned like wipeouts into just like they were like so graceful about it that they like tripped and fell, but then they like tumbled and did like this little dance move and you just felt like they did it on purpose. Like I'm sure the people casually observing were like, oh, like what a cool photographer. They're just like
no, you're
hiding the
giving me too
moment.
much credit, Ellen. You're giving me too much credit. You know what I would be more like is like the TikTok memes where the fall or the bang or the trip then turns into a beat.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
people
Where
remix
someone gets like
it.
hit in the head with like a pan and then it's like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, and then people are dancing in the background.
Yeah.
That's what it would have been, a remix for an embarrassing meme. That's yeah.
That,
Uh-huh.
not a bad way to make internet fame. We'll try to dig up that video from the archives. No, I'm kidding.
No,
It's too difficult
no.
to find.
Oh, I hope there's not footage somewhere. I really do.
Well, this next one, I'm gonna get a little personal with you. I know you kind of already referenced a moment that, again, could fit into this category, but if you have something else that comes to mind, the most gutsy thing I've ever done in a relationship is, and again, this could be like a friendship relationship like the one you mentioned earlier, it could be a romantic relationship, parent-daughter relationship, whatever makes sense for you.
I'm going to go with the first thing that came to mind, and it's a little heavy. So I will preface with that and also preface just by saying, if you struggle with infertility or that's been a challenge for you, I am going to bring that up. And so, just like a gentle sensitivity warning. The most gutsy thing I've ever done in a relationship was have the honest conversation with my husband about at the time, what I thought was the reality. It turned out with IVF, it didn't become the reality, but to have a conversation with my husband about whether or not we wanted to stay together when I knew I couldn't give him biological kids.
Hmm. Wow.
And that was shortly after, a benign brain tumor diagnosis, where I then went and had to kind of come to terms with the fact that, infertility was closely linked with that. There was a very good chance that wasn't in the cards for me. And just knowing how much my husband had always wanted to be a dad and would have, made an amazing dad, which he is an amazing dad, I didn't want to hide anything from him going into our marriage. And I was diagnosed with all of that and went through all of that, 6 months prior to our wedding day.
Wow.
And so having that conversation of saying to him, like, do you want to stay with me?
Hmm.
Like, if the future that we've been dreaming of for 7 years, we've been dating for 7 years at that point, if it's not something I can give you, is it still a future that you want?
That's powerful.
I don't know that I've ever shared that. Wow, I'm like getting really choked up. Whew. I don't know that I've ever shared that. At least not, I don't think I've ever shared that like more publicly before, but that was probably the most gutsy thing I've ever done in a relationship. And, my husband being my husband, anyone who knows him or has read about him when I write about him would know, his answer was like, Natalie, why would you even ask me that? Of course. That is like, that's not why I'm marrying you. We will figure everything out as we go. And that man, held my hand through brain surgery and recovery and fertility treatment and month after month of it not working. And, is now the man that holds my hand when we walk our kids around the neighborhood. So, um, yeah,
Uh,
that's that was the first moment that came to mind as my honest answer.
well, thank you for that and that just intense vulnerability. That's probably not where what you were expecting when you sat down to chat with me this morning. I have little
Woo,
tears in
now
my
I'm like
eyes.
sweating. Ellen, I'm like sweating. I'm disrobing. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm taking the jacket off.
I told you
Whew.
it was the hot seat for a reason, right? We're turning up the
It's
heat.
hot.
Actually, in all fairness, we're probably turning down the heat a little bit for a moment because thank you. I mean that is a really personal thing to share with our community, and I just really appreciate you for living the truth of being gutsy, and like that includes having hard conversations like you had with your husband, but obviously also like you're doing here. I'll take the heat off you for just a moment. We're gonna do two fun gutsy
Okay.
moments. The most gutsy thing I've ever eaten is.
Oh gosh. You really want to know this one?
I really want to know.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
One is something I didn't eat. I wasn't gutsy enough to eat, but I should have eaten. And the other one's something that I actually that was pretty gutsy.
Okay.
Um, so oh God, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. Should I add another sensitivity warning? If
Yeah,
you love
let's add a
if oh
sensitivity
gosh,
warning just in case
it's
if
an
you're like
animal.
yeah, if you're
It's an
like
animal.
vegan or vegetarian, you should just
I wanna really respect that and
yeah,
honor
fast
that and
forward.
just, like, fast forward by, like, a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so the gustiest thing I've ever eaten was pelican. Oh, no, it wasn't it was puffin. What am I saying? It was puffin, not pelican, sorry. I
Oh,
ate a puffin
interesting. That's a
when I was in
bird,
Iceland.
right? That's a
Yes,
bird.
don't Google it, it's so cute. You will hate me, but I did, I ate it. It was at a restaurant in Iceland, it's like a delicacy there,
Yeah.
and they're very plentiful there, so it's just like a food that people eat there. It's
Yeah.
puffin. It's definitely the gutsiest thing I've ever eaten. I was like, what am I doing? Now, the gutsiest thing I didn't end up eating,
Yeah.
but my friend Martha, who we've already see, I have a lot of adventures involved. Anything gutsy that I've done in my life, Martha, if you're listening, you have been the culprit of.
I'm gonna send this to her, so she'll hear it.
Yeah, and my friend Leslie Wong, who's the co-founder of Burgundy Fox, we were in Iceland together, and Leslie and Martha ate fermented shark.
Fermented shark?
It smelled like ammonia, and I couldn't do it. I
Like
so this is me
like a
being gutsy
pickle
and sharing my cowardice. I mean, it smelled like somebody opened bleach. I was like, I've
oh,
never so if you've ever tried that, let us know, drop a comment. But it's like an Icelandic thing. Like I mean, it's
wow.
very much like a traditional way of preserving shark for the long winter months. But that smell haunts me in my dreams. It was it's notorious. Like
Rancid. Yeah.
yeah, it's a notorious thing, but bravo, Martha and Leslie, for taking a bite. I'm not as brave
Wow.
as you.
I am impressed. Honestly, in that moment, I think if I smelled the smell that you're describing,
I couldn't.
it
I
wouldn't
couldn't.
really even be about it being shark. It would just be like, I would feel like, is my throat gonna like melt if this thing touches me? Because like you don't pour
Yeah.
bleach down your mouth or in your mouth, obviously. So, wow, I did not even know fermented shark was a thing. I'm very, very intrigued. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
You don't know.
impressed, Miss Natalie. All right. Okay, the most gutsy thing I've ever worn is
Ooh. You know, I'm gonna be really honest with you here. I don't know that I'm a particularly gutsy dresser. And what I mean by that is the fact that we're having this conversation and I'm wearing a sleeveless dress now that I've disrobed because it got so hot in my hot seat. I spent most of my life always covering my arms, dressing very
Mm,
conservatively. There's actually a story in the book about growing up going to Catholic school and, hitting a growth spurt. And for the first time in my life, feeling so ashamed of my own body
mm.
and struggling so much with the fact that overnight I got boobs. And I was like, what is
What are
happening?
these?
And right? And getting called out. Like a teacher called me up and gave me a uniform infraction in front of the entire class. And I write about this in the book and the amount of shame that that created for me. So to be really gutsy, I would say that that is actually an area I want to work more on now that I am in my 30s, now that I am kind of doing some of the unlearning that like it's okay for me to have my arms out in public. Like if a bit of side boob shows the world is not going to end. Like I'm being real. So gutsiest thing, I mean, gosh, I don't know. I would say let's for the Natalie's version of gutsy in 10 years when we follow in the footsteps of our beloved Taylor, I'll hopefully have a better answer for you. But I would say, just not wearing sleeves for me,
Yeah.
honestly, is quite a gutsy thing. And for anyone who's like, what is she talking about? There's a part in the book too where I talk about the fact that your definition of being gutsy, your definition of courage is unique to you and you alone, that the very things that for you seem easy and you don't even give a second thought to for other people can be incredibly debilitating and require so much courage to get through. In my own life, like I've gone bungee jumping off a mountain and I've had to drum up the same amount of courage at other seasons to get out of bed in the morning when I was struggling with postpartum depression. So in a way, like, not wearing sleeves perhaps is a gutsy move for me. In 10 years, I hope it's something more than that. Let's come up with like a fun theme party where I can, you know, dress like, what is it? People go to Coachella and they barely wear clothes. Maybe we'll try something like that, Ellen. We'll host a creative Chella, a cubicle to CEO Chella, and I
I
can I can wear something gutsy.
I love it, and I just wanna reaffirm that is more than fair, and I'm so glad that you brought up that piece of how our barometer for what is gutsy is going to look different in every situation, and it really is shaped by your lived experiences, right? A lot is the environment and the specific things that you had to go through as a child that may have impacted what things feel scarier or not to you, as well as your innate personality. And so thank you for being honest about that, because I think that is more than a fair answer. All right, we've arrived at our final gutsy question. You're almost off the hot seat. And then I would love to share with our listeners, of course, where they can pre order Gutsy and just a little bit more about the book. Last thing, the most gutsy thing I've ever tried is
Ooh, the most gutsy thing I've ever tried.
it's a
You
hard
know,
one.
it's a hard one because I don't want to cheat and just throw out something like getting a tattoo, going bungee jumping, like all the things that the world would applaud in regards to like, oh yeah, that's a brave thing to do.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think the most gutsy thing I ever tried was starting a business.
Mm,
It really was. It was a moment where I had gone to college for 4 years. I had gotten a degree from an Ivy League school. Everyone expected me to follow a certain path and to, you know, go in a certain direction. And I instead became a full time photographer. And it was to the dismay of a lot of people that were very vocal about how they felt about that decision. And I remember having to drum up a lot of courage to go do that and to really believe and bet on myself and know that even if I did it and I failed, and even if every one of those people could say, I told you so, that it was still the right choice for me. And it changed everything about the trajectory of my life. So,
that is such an encouraging word for all of our listeners who are obviously all entrepreneurs who all did that same gutsy move of starting a business. And I mean, to your point, that's interesting hearing you say that because, like you said, it did change the trajectory of your life because you're not even a photographer anymore. But all the
no.
things after that have happened, this book, the book before it, starting Rising Tide Society, being the chief evangelist for Honeybook, all these things were only because of that first gutsy decision. So I love that. Thank you so much for being a willing participant in in our hot seat today. Natalie, where can our listeners pre-order Gutsy? What date does it actually release? And why for your second book this personal topic rather than say maybe a business book because you're very well versed in that area as well?
Yes. Okay. So what I will say, I'll answer your last question first really quickly. So I decided to write a book on courage, specifically through the lens of overcoming this fear of other people's opinions, what other people think, and the fear of judgment, of criticism, of allowing, what someone else says about you to dictate the trajectory of your life.
Mm,
Because I actually have found by working with business owners that we have made failure the scapegoat. Very often we tell ourselves that the reason that somebody hasn't reached a dream or a goal or achieved success is because they failed. But more often than not, I have found that it's because many of the dreams that people have never even get started, never even come to fruition because of these concerns, because of the fear of what other people have to say. What is someone going to think if I start the business and quit my job? What is somebody going to say if I launch that thing? She already did it. Who am I to do it? What will people think? Will they think I'm copying her? I could go on and on and on. We've all had those soundtracks. We've all experienced those narratives. Fear is not a very creative thing. It tends to repeat over and over and over again. And in witnessing that, like, people aren't being stopped by their failures. They're never even giving themselves a chance to fail. I knew that I had to write a book that addressed the actual problem because we love to talk about fear of failure. Very rarely do we talk about the fear of what other people think of us. And Gutsy is a book that gets to the heart and the root cause of so many people's struggles and why they're stuck. And so that's why I wrote it. And also, even in the beginning of the book, in the intro, I talk about how I had a friend ask me after Built to Belong came out, like, how was it? You published a book. Like, what is it? What was it like? And I just said, terrifying. It was terrifying. And she said to me, well, that's the thing about you, Nat. You just do it scared.
yeah.
And I realized in that moment that, like, everything I've accomplished in my life, I have done scared.
Mhm.
The things that matter, especially, I have done scared. And so I want other people to know that and to know that the people they look up to are doing it scared. And perhaps in looking up to themselves and setting the example for, their life and the people who look up to them, they have to repeat that process. So we talk about that in the book. It drops on August 15th. It hits shelves. It's available everywhere, and highly recommend pre-ordering if you can. Gutsy, nataliefrank.com/Gutsy. You can search Gutsy or Natalie Frank on any of the book retailers, and the audiobook I recorded myself. So if you are an audiobook fan, if that's your preferred method of consumption, if you're listening to this, it might be, definitely check out the audiobook, available both on Audible and on Libro FM. If you're not familiar, by the way, with Libro FM, it supports independent bookstores. So you can actually select your local independent bookstore, one that you want to support, and go ahead and listen to it just like you would on any other audiobook platform. So definitely check it out.
Oh, I love that so much. And that perspective is one that I wish every single person listening to this would permanently cement in their hearts. And that is that failure is not the thing to fear, it's inaction. That's the true trap
Right. Right.
preventing you from everything you want in life. And I myself, I was very lucky to get an early digital copy of Gutsy. And so I'm so excited to dive in, but more excited to bring back the headgear and take
Yes.
this book on
I
another
want a
camping trip.
repeat.
Yeah.
I want a gutsy repeat of the headlamp.
Yeah.
I
The
do.
lamp.
I'm going to be really sad if save that one for launch. Share that one with me on launch day. I'm going to need it.
Fair. Yes, I love it. I will. And like Natalie said, make sure if you can to try to support an independent bookstore in your local area to buy this book. If they don't have it, request it. That's how they
Yeah.
know what they need to put on their shelves. So ask for Gutsy to be on your local bookshelves. And we're also doing a really fun giveaway with Natalie. So if you want to win a free copy of Gutsy, a signed copy, may I
Yep.
add, whatever the link is going to be, it'll be in the show notes. Make sure you check it out. Thank you so much, Natalie, as always, for being here. We love you and just celebrating you and this book coming out.
Ellen, you're the best. Thank you for having me.